The following podcast is an RMG Media production.
Welcome to the Renaissance Podcast, a podcast for Renaissance women
and men
who want to create a modern-day Renaissance in their life and business.
We interview some of the most successful entrepreneurs and share their unique stories.
Are you ready to create your Renaissance? Well, hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. It is so good to be with you. I feel like, I was just saying off air, we have just so much synergy and so much in common, and I feel like your whole career, correct me if I'm wrong, has just been in supporting the entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah, pretty much. I spent the first couple of years out of grad school working actually for the comptroller for the state of Tennessee in the bond finance office. So less so there, but learning some good lessons about local government, about boards and how they're managed and how they're structured, and about, state government that I think has been helpful in this current role. But yeah, took that little brief detour out of grad school.
Okay, so grad school. Okay, because I really kind of want to go back with you because you're such an interesting person. I was just saying, you're so multifaceted. You are you've had this massive CEO career that you've done not just at Launch Tennessee, but previously. You are so successful. You have multiple houses, which we were just talking about.
Yeah, one house too many. Yeah, I've gotta, if anybody's looking for a place in Chattanooga, please let me know.
Hit up Lindsey. But how did we get here? Like there's so much work that went into your career path. You are obviously like, you don't ever stop working. It's very clear.
Yeah, that is true. You can ask my husband that. He, my husband is a hobbyist, right? He's a software engineer, wonderful and lovely. He also plays the accordion and is doing disc golf and all of these. Has a tie-dye side business. And so he has a lot of hobbies, and people are always like, "Oh, well, what do you do?" And I'm like, "I just work a lot, and that's fine. That I enjoy that, so that's great. I'm glad that Joe can do all the hobbies and still also work, obviously, in his career doing software engineering. But it is just funny. I think we both just spend a lot of time on these things in different ways.
I'm really glad that you just brought this up, because this is something I've been thinking a lot about. Like with my husband and I, it's very similar. I'm just, what's your hobby, Sydney? Can work just be a hobby? Can it please be a hobby? Because it's my favorite thing. And my husband's got his hands in a lot of different, he loves RC cars. Those remote.
Yeah.
I'm not, the most proud to say that, but it's a thing.
No, it's cool. Like I'm here for it,
Collects, loves. We have a track in our backyard. We live in a townhome. We don't even have a backyard, but there's a track thing.
Awesome.
And, he loves track.
I have a disc golf hoop in my backyard currently. So,
that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's such an interesting point, because I think successful people, this is maybe a blanket statement, but I feel like to have a successful job and then a successful relationship, each person has to have their things.
I think that's right. Yeah. And a little bit of a, opposites attract, but with similar value propositions, right? Like we both really value hard work. We both really value producing excellent at the things that you are passionate and excited about. And so but that doesn't mean we have to, like all of those same activities, right? So I think that's a good unifier.
I love that. I'm always interested in other, marriages, and just like, you're both so different, but you have those same morals and those same values of like, we value hard work. We value working really hard during the week and then playing really hard, but we play in our different ways.
Yes, yeah.
But we can also like do things together. And okay, that's
we're big film people. We like to do that together. Like we do have similar, areas of interest, but it is just funny, and like, how we spend kind of the vast majority of our time very different ways.
Do you work at night? When are you kind of, because I always say there's like work, but then there's like passive chill work.
Yeah.
That I love.
Yeah. I'm an early morning emailer, so I am a like wake up, check the things, respond to stuff, and then it's like walk the dog, have the coffee, do the breakfast, get ready for the office. And so, I may not be kind of arriving at the office until 9:30, but stuff has been happening before that. And then, yeah, again, like kind of full work day, and then, whatever evening activities might hold. And then typically, 8 p.m. is a nice kind of wind down and do the emails and the review and the things.
Well, because I can imagine your life and your day is probably a lot of meetings from when you get to the office. I'd like to know about how you structure your day, but that's important to say because then there's people don't understand, and people that don't understand coming home and working, then you sounds like you have a great husband and so do I, but there was a whole part of your day where you're not checking your email because you were in meetings all day.
Yeah, and that was kind of what my day looked like yesterday. It's certainly what it'll look like towards the end of this week because we've got some travel coming up both on the team side and then me individually, have a couple trips to work in there. So we'll be in several members of our team will be in Knoxville on Thursday this week for a great event we're doing with our partners and friends at Pinnacle Financial Partners, capital conversations where we'll talk about our new investment fund, LaunchTN. Pinnacle can also talk about their services they offer for entrepreneurs. And it's really just kind of a big Q&A event, right? But we're going to go down a little bit early because we've been requested to participate in a podcast up there, which we're happy to do. And it's with creative director of the Knoxville Entrepreneur Center, who is one of our partners at Launch Tennessee. So of course we're happy to go and see Chris and chat with him. And then the next day, I'll be hosting an innovation roundtable conversation with really a small targeted group, business leaders, entrepreneurs in the community, hard tech founders, higher ed folks, around how we can elevate the conversation of innovation at a statewide level. So it'll be kind of a varied day, right? So from like talking to entrepreneurs the night before and really getting into the niche of what, whether you would be a fit for investment or whether you should consider loan products or if bootstrapping is the right fit, to then the next day, this kind of very high level conversation about how are we thinking about innovation? How are we thinking about unique programs that the state could offer to support founders, as they kind of journey along their pipeline?
Man, there's so much there to unpack in what you just said. I guess before we jump into everything entrepreneurship, I'm always curious about the person, about like the high level person who's, running this incredible organization that you are, building this incredible organization. But I'm like, there's you. So there's so many pieces to you and how you've gotten here. So how did we get to Launch Tennessee and how did you, become so passionate about this work? Because you really light up when you talk about it.
Yeah, I do. I love it. I truly believe that what we are doing is incredibly important, that we as an organization have the ability to influence and support so many founders, startups, investors on their journeys and really contribute to, the economic outlook for the state. So, again, just very passionate about that. But so how I got here, I am from Tennessee. I'm from a tiny town in Tennessee called Livingston, Tennessee. Shout out to Livingston, population like 2,800. It's just about 30 miles north of Cookeville. Went to Cookeville High School, all of that good stuff. But yeah, so was there, stayed in state for school, so undergrad and grad at Tennessee Tech University in Cookeville. Further shout out to Tennessee Tech in Cookeville, wonderful school. And then moved to Nashville for that first kind of job out of grad school for the comptroller's office. But in that job, in that role, I really saw the power that government had and that people who were in influential places could have in terms of like decisions that could get made that could really benefit the whole state, the whole community for whatever that target might be. And also saw the folks that were supporting those people and making those decisions and doing that research and thinking about how we've maybe done something a certain way for a long time, but how are other places doing it? And is that something we could apply here? And then if we did, would that, work out for the betterment of everyone? And so, that was very interesting to me in terms of how to have an impact, like, come from a long line of folks who are interested in that impact. My great-grandfather worked for the Tennessee Highway Department before it was TDOT for his entire career. So, really in public service. My great uncle worked or started a company that built a lot of the roadways here in Tennessee, which has since been acquired, et cetera, but a company called Highways Incorporated. And so, had these people of influence in my life that were doing this really meaningful work that they loved and were excited about. They didn't think of it as public service, but I certainly saw it that way, right? Like what benefit that was creating. And so I think from having that background and then seeing, kind of fresh out of school that you could do this, right? And you could have really positive influence through these kinds of thoughts and actions, just kind of opened my eyes to that. And then, it was just really by happenstance, fate, fortune, whatever, that around this same time, Launch Tennessee was getting stood up and reinvigorated. So Launch Tennessee had actually been around for several years as a group called the Tennessee Technology Development Corporation since the late 90s, whose real focus was around commercialization. So there's technology that's primarily out of universities, but out of anywhere. How do we get it into product and into company that will create jobs? So they had been thinking about that for a while, but in 2012, then Governor Haslam had just committed to the idea of job creation through innovation, through entrepreneurship. Took this kind of legacy organization and said, hey, we're going to reinvigorate this. We're going to find a great CEO to run it. We're going to empower them to hire a team and do really cool things. And so that first CEO was Charlie Brock, who's out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, and ended up bringing me on. When did I start? Probably 6 to 8 months after Charlie had come on full time. So very, very early hire at Launch Tennessee, and really got to help just build out what the organization was going to do. And at that time, so 2013-ish, we were really focused on helping stand up entrepreneur centers around the state. So Nashville EC had already gotten started, but, offering some financial infusion there and some unification with other markets. Chattanooga, similar collab, the Entrepreneur Center there was also already started. That's where they found Charlie. But these other ones around the state had not quite gotten organized yet. So it was like, hey, let's, help stand up these entrepreneur centers, create this connectivity between them and us. So we can share best practices. We can see what's working. We can, help add bandwidth to all of these different organizations. So that was kind of one of the main focus areas of Launch Tennessee. And then at the time, we also had a $29 million co-investment fund that we were administering out to various companies around the state. And I say co-investment and kind of emphasize that because that was the model we were using. If investors were bringing us deals that were qualified, then we were, writing an investment check. And so those were kind of the two main functionalities of the organization at that time. It's since grown and changed, and we're doing new and different stuff. And we did start hosting a conference that first year, originally named Southland, that has since become 3686, which we just celebrated our 10th one. Very exciting things. So it was great to just get in on that ground level and get a real understanding of what it means to build, right? To take something that was not anything and then build it into something that can do all of these great things. And all the while getting to work with, folks all over the state who are working in their own communities to build those entrepreneur centers or to find those great companies that could use investment, et cetera. And so was fortunate enough to spend several years at Launch Tennessee. I'd jokingly say I was professionally raised by Charlie. He and I are still very close, and he's wonderful and great and still really involved in the entrepreneurial ecosystem today. And then, started from a role that was really, kind of fiscal in nature and more that type of thing to, eventually structuring our government relations department and thinking about how we could better educate folks around the state about what Launch Tennessee was doing, and then, started running 3686. And so ran that event in 2018 and 2019. And then from there actually had this moment where I was like, I think this is what I could be doing forever.
Wow.
But I need to have a broader understanding of what that could mean. And like, I need to get more knowledge. Like, I'm kind of run out of my immediate knowledge base, right? So what can I go do? And spend some hours talking with a lot of mentors and a lot of folks whose opinion I really value about what might be next for me. And, it came back, there were really 3 pathways. Could start a company or could go, work for a startup, could go to a venture capital fund and really get more in-depth in my investment experience and knowledge, or could really double down on this whole tech-based economic development, entrepreneur support, innovation as a job creator thing. And that was what I was drawn to. And so left Launch Tennessee to go to Washington, D.C. to spend some time at the Department of Commerce in the Federal Office of Innovation and Entrepreneurship. So got brought up there to help restructure a big $255 million, it's since grown, dollar grant program that was focused on supporting the Launch Tennessees and the Nashville Entrepreneur Centers and the Knoxville Entrepreneur Centers and the collabs, but all over the country. So having, those folks kind of say, hey, this is what we're seeing in our market. This is how we're looking to address it. This is an innovative new program we want to try out. So gaining all of that knowledge and all the while kind of thinking, I wonder how this could maybe one day be applied in Tennessee. And so was fortunate enough to spend some time in DC, really loved it. However, COVID set in about 6 months after we got there. And so we stayed about 2 years in DC, but kind of looking around being like, how much are we paying in rent to not really leave our house? And, I loved walking our dogs there, loved our immediate neighbors. They were so great, but just, not quite the bustling DC experience that I think most people typically get when they kind of endeavor to leave their town to go do that. And so there was a role that came open, the CEO role at the Company Lab, which is the Chattanooga Entrepreneur Center partner of Launch Tennessee. And so applied for that, interviewed, went through that process, and luckily was offered the role. And so relocated to Chattanooga in 2021 and had such a great time. Just, that organization had always been a really high performer and a really forward thinker in entrepreneur support. They had taken the gig speed internet that was available through EPB, which was the first, commercially or residentially available high-speed gig internet in the country way back in 2010. That was how they had kind of structured their initial push around entrepreneurial support, where, hey, companies that need this high-speed internet, come build your company in Chattanooga and we'll support you. And so it was, a real honor to get the chance to lead an organization that had such a powerful legacy of contribution to that community, and think about, how to, grow that and how to, what might be next for it, So, I thought we would be there a little bit longer. I was sharing that's how we accidentally got an extra rental house in there, because my husband and I did buy. Really think we're committing to Chattanooga. And then the Launch Tennessee CEO role ended up opening about a year-ish later. And so was just too hard to turn down the opportunity to get to do this statewide.
Wow. What a journey you've been on.
Yeah.
I mean, starting with the early days of Launch and then, going to DC and then going to Chattanooga. I mean, I'm sure just lived a lot of life, a lot of business life, learned so much. Did you, were you intimidated at all going into the Launch Tennessee CEO role?
Definitely. I think intimidation is like a healthy thing.
Agreed.
Right? I think that makes you
just crazy enough to want to do it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I think that I think intimidation is a good thing.
Yeah, do it scared.
Yeah, and I think it also, in my case, I tend to be a person that can sometimes not ask for help, can just get very focused on this thing has to happen and we're doing it. And I think when you're a little bit intimidated and a little bit out of your comfort zone, you find yourself kind of poking your head up and saying, well, hey, what do you think about this? Like, person whose opinion I value, or, board member that I didn't really know in my previous roles, but now have this great access to, like, what do you think about this? And I think it really helped expand, my knowledge base quickly, just by feeling a little intimidated. And like, I had some good ideas, but I wanted to get some second opinions on those.
What does the job description look like for you? And what is kind of your day-to-day, like the core job for this role? Yeah.
So I consider myself like the chief advocate for entrepreneurs and innovators around the state. I think that is what I am good at. And I think that is what Launch Tennessee should be doing. Like, it's certainly not my job to tell you the intimate details of how I think you should run your business. It's my job to advocate that you can do that here in Tennessee with great resources, with great programs, with great opportunity. If you are seeing limitations, is there a way for us to help reduce those? If you're running into where you can't hire talent, is there a way for us to think about how we could offer a centralized job board to promote more of that? Like just more of that scale for a challenge. But I think that is my job, is to really advocate on behalf of founders and I will also say investors in Tennessee. So that is what I consider it. My day-to-day looks like a combination of, really tactical work in the organization as we think about what we are going to lean into next. So, for example, over the past year, we've been really focused on structuring our newest investment program, which is a $70 million fund called LaunchTN. That is up and running. We've had about 400 startups submit initial intakes into that, and around 25 VC funds. So we're working our way through that, and we'll hopefully have some good news to share in the coming weeks about our first round of deals. So had been really focused on that, and within the last several months have been able to kind of pivot my focus more actually back to the roots of Launch Tennessee on our commercialization. So we, have seen and connected with so many amazing innovators and researchers in higher ed who are doing really cool things and thinking through how do we support them more? How do we really amp up getting these technologies out of a university setting? And so that's what I'll be, I think tactically spending some time with over the next several months, but which is great. Happy to be doing that. And then, there's kind of team management and all of the fun stuff that goes with that. And our team is about doubled in size since I came on board last July. So went from, I think we were at 11 because I started July 1 and our chief investment officer started the same day, to now we're sitting at about 18 and then a part-time person.
That's a lot.
Yeah, a lot of growth.
People say when you hit 15 people, that's when it's a really big up level.
Yeah. I think I have felt that internally somewhere. I was like, oh, this has gone from our team huddles on Mondays and Fridays, 30 minutes used to be really an ample time to accommodate. And now we're kind of pushing it a little more. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is feeling it. And then we moved into a new office last year. And, even that, like, if we're all in the office, that feels like a whole lot of us. Kind of had that moment at 3686 this year. We welcomed our team on stage, and I was like, oh, there's so many of us, which is great, and really needed to support the work that we're doing, because it is statewide work. So another big part of my role is travel, and that's a part for a lot of our team members in the office too. While we have Entrepreneur Center partners around the state, we also have great industry network partners around the state, specifically working on early stage venture startups in their specific industry sect. So while we have all these great partners, we also need to be out, connecting with folks around the state, and so have spent a good amount of time traveling from everywhere from Memphis to Kingsport. And so I think I'll hit, it's October, so I'll hit Knoxville, Kingsport, Tri-Cities area, Oak Ridge, Memphis, the back half of this month, and then maybe a little trip into Chattanooga. So
wow. Tennessee's a big state.
It's a big state.
Like, you don't really think that it is. I feel like when you live in Nashville, but then you're like, oh yeah, Memphis is a thing.
Yeah.
And then there's Cookeville, and like there's Knoxville. Like there's big cities around Nashville.
Yes.
And I forget that.
Yeah. It is. It's funny. We were chatting with some folks from the Small Business Administration of the federal SBA. We work with them on a specific program called SBIR, Small Business Innovation Research. We offer a grant writing support program they help fund to achieve more of these awards in Tennessee. And they're going to be doing a road tour in the coming months, and we were talking with them about where they might want to host it. And we're like, oh, Nashville's like in the middle of the state, so that's convenient. And they were like, what about Memphis? And we were like, Memphis is so great. However, for our founders from Knoxville, you're really talking about a 5.5 hour, possibly more trip. So, and they're like, whoa, Tennessee. And I'm like, yes.
It's really long, when you think about it geographically. I'm not here to talk geographics because that's not my area. Well, so I imagine your team gets a lot of emails, hits from entrepreneurs all across the state looking for funding. I mean, we get asked that all the time. Do you know anyone? Do you know anyone? I get asked that all the time by our clients because like you, we service startups, entrepreneurs. That's our whole mission, our whole ethos. And I am not the expert. I always tell them I am not the expert. Here's some people that are the experts in this world. Certainly you guys are the experts in this world, but not everyone needs funding right away, right?
Correct,
like that's something I'm sure, and I'd like to have that conversation with you because I think a lot of early entrepreneurs specifically think it's going to solve all their problems, and it's not.
Yeah, no, it's not. And there's also like what kind of funding you want to take, and recognizing that when specifically with venture or any type of investment that you take on, you're also giving up a piece of ownership of your company, and how comfortable are you with that? And there's an adage about, like an old adage about taking investment. So it's like if you're driving a car and you pick up a hitchhiker, you guys are having a great time until the hitchhiker decides that he wants your car to go a different way than what you want to go. And it's similar with investment, right? So if you are taking on investors and you guys are headed in the same direction, that's all well and good until you come to that fork in the road, and maybe you as the founder want to take that car in one direction and they want to take it in another direction. And then all of a sudden we've got some complications there. So, have also, always like to remind people, venture capital, taking investment, that is a pathway that, it is sometimes treated as this big celebration of achievement. And it is, I certainly don't want to put that down for founders that are raising money, and that is such a process, but like it is a pathway. It is a milestone. It's not the end goal, right? The end goal is to like build your company to the vision that you want to build it. And if venture capital can help you do that, great. But if it is going to derail you from your path, then maybe not as great, right? So through InvestTN, that is actually part of a larger statewide initiative called Fund Tennessee. fundtennessee.org if people would like to visit the site after I talk about this. But there's two components to Fund Tennessee: InvestTN, which we are, administering, running on behalf of the state of Tennessee, and then a program called LaunchTN, which is focused on loan capital and has several different CDFI partners around the state that can engage with businesses that are looking maybe for more loan capital. And if you're not sure which one you're interested in, also recommend, educating yourself on those things, but then also, are welcome to talk to us, Entrepreneur Center partner, but also, the Lend Tennessee or the LaunchTN partners like Pathway Lending, getting technical assistance through an Entrepreneur Center or through a small business development center in the community, like lots of resources out there to help educate you about which pathway might be right. And, the best kind of capital is revenue, So that's always something we encourage folks towards, but certainly understand that, if you're specifically developing, a hard technology, like say you're working in, carbon manufacturing, the notion of getting to revenue is going to require much more investment in your actual core technology before you can take that to market. So definitely areas where venture capital, grant funding, loan capital are necessary to move your business along.
What about angel investing?
Yeah.
What does that look like? What even is that for people that don't know? Do you like that avenue, or do you think, okay, you have to have this specific business to be a better fit for an angel investor? Or what does that look like?
The answer is always, it all depends. All of this is so niche, and it's based on what your business goals are, and then what your product might be, what your service might be, and where you see the company going, and also like who is willing to come to the table with capital. So with angel investors, you're really looking at individuals that are willing to write, kind of those first, early stage checks besides what might be friends and family, although friends and family can certainly be angel investors, into your company. It is generally kind of the first money you take, and it may be to help you, achieve that minimal, viable product that a venture capital investor is really going to look for before they're writing larger checks into the company. So, again, it always depends. I'll never kind of blanket recommend somebody take checks and stuff, but I would think about it, in terms of with angel investment specifically. I really like to think about that in terms of the strategic alignment. So, are you really just taking this money for the sake of taking money? Again, you're giving up a piece of your company that you're working really hard to build. Or is this angel investor also bringing some strategic connections and value to the table? And maybe that could be, business acumen. Maybe it's somebody who has successfully had several startups, and that's why they've got some capital sitting around to help angel invest and get you started up. Like, can they short circuit your questions that you're going to have along the way? Because you can pick up the phone and call this person and get those answers really fast. Do they, have a lot of experience in the industry you're trying to get into? Like, what kind of strategic value are they bringing to the table? And something our chief investment officer talks a lot about in terms of capital, and I wholeheartedly agree with this, is, what we love to see for entrepreneurs at LaunchTN is options. We never want you to be sitting there with one option, feeling like you are being forced to take it to move your business along. Like, the creation of options and you getting to think about which avenue is best for you, or which investment partner, or is an investment partner, or which angel group, or which individual angel, having those options on the table, that is what, is so incredibly helpful and important.
Yeah.
And, makes everybody kind of come with a more competitive self, right? If they're offering you something, but they know that you're considering other options. And that extends beyond angel investment into providers too, right? Like into legal support, into accounting support. Like it really is all about increasing those options for founders here in the state.
And that's so empowering too, to have those options, to be educated on those options, to have kind of a clear roadmap of where you really want to go, and then be able to put resources into whatever option that you choose, and knowledge and mentorship and all of that. A lot of what we do, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, is we prepare entrepreneurs and startups for that phase of kind of going to you guys and looking at what options they want to tackle. And if they know, okay, I think I want an angel investor, I think I want a VC firm, whatever, we prep them on building their brand first. And I'd love to hear your thought on that, because we take on entrepreneurs and we create their decks. We know really what that needs to look like. We do, a lot of times they're coming to us, well, I don't have a logo. And I'm like, okay, well, all right, well, let's
Gonna
cart
need
before
that,
the horse and build the brand, get social, at least, somewhat started, depending on where we are, getting website built, all of that. Like we really like to be a part of that process before they even shake a hand with somebody or send an email.
Yeah, I mean, I just think storytelling around your, business, product, service, vision is so incredibly important, particularly when you are trying to get others to invest in that business or visually see what you see in your mind, right? Like, I certainly kind of fall into that bucket of having a very clear picture of my mind of what this thing is, and then realizing that I'm kind of sometimes explaining it well, sometimes less so. And so how do you create that unified story and that unified brand so that you can translate your idea really quickly and succinctly and get others on board fast?
Do you suggest video being a part of the pitch process to have like a video go across the desk of a VC firm or of an angel investor? Or
I think it depends. I mean, if it's short, sure. But I also, people are getting inundated with a lot of material. And so I think it's, what are you doing to grab attention quickly, and how are you succinctly explaining the value proposition in a really, quick to the point kind of way. So, you don't get, if especially in a cold environment, right? It's a little bit different in an actual, meeting, sitting down, chatting over coffee, et cetera. But if you're sending out a lot of materials, right? It's like, how are you getting to that value proposition for them really quickly? Because they're looking at a lot of this information.
How do you stand out on the market when there are, I mean, you just said there's 400 people that just applied for this recent one that you guys have. Like, that's a lot of, like, how can we stand out?
Yeah, I think it is, comes down to having a real vision for what you are trying to do with your business, right? So if you are seeking venture capital funds, why? And you would be surprised on like people not being quite able to answer why they are seeking those funds and for what. So, you're giving up a piece of your business. Like, what are you going to do with these funds that are going to take you from here to here? Because that's what VC funds should be doing, right? It should be kind of like rocket fuel into your business that's going to like shoot it up. And so if you don't have the vision and the plan for how these funds are going to be translated into that's kind of an immediate, concern or just opportunity to say like, okay, well, why this? Why take this capital? And so, I would say that's something that we see. I think folks that have a really good understanding of their differentiator. So, that is the difference, right, between a company kind of staying small and growing huge, is that there is this differentiator that people want. That, if you're, business to business, that those corporates want and need, or business to consumer, that consumer wants and needs. Like, what is that differentiator that is going to make you into the next kind of big company, or make this opportunity so incredibly unique? And so founders that have a really clear and concise understanding of that. And then I would also say folks who are truly realistic about who their competitors are. If you are saying there are no competitors to my company in the market, that's just not true. Even if you have this incredibly unique differentiator, there's still an alternative because folks have been existing around, for for eons now. So that means there are alternatives, even if status quo is the alternative. But are you assessing that in terms of that competitive process and what it is going to take? And so, I think those are areas that we're pretty consistently looking at and looking for.
How important is it for the founder and that person that's kind of the leader and the head of everything? At what role does it play for them to be the differentiator in terms of the deal? You know what I'm trying to ask?
Yeah. No, it's
weird way to phrase it.
how much does the founder, the individual, the CEO matter in this?
Matter.
Yeah. Quite a bit. And there is specifically, folks will talk about the earliest times of raising capital. It's, when somebody is truly coming to you with an idea, not an MVP. So speaking kind of more towards those angel investors, they're not really investing in that company per se. I mean, they are, but they are investing in you. They believe you. You have told them this information and they think you are the person who can get this thing done. So that it's solely about the founder in that case, right?
No pressure.
But that is a thing to be aware of too, right? We certainly see that with companies at various points in their growth stage where they get to the point where the founder who has maybe started the company and done these early raises and this early structuring is all of a sudden going from, I think we talked about when you go from 5 to 15. What about when you go from 15 to 50? What about when you go from 50 to 250? That doesn't mean that original founder is the right person to be running that company then, once you kind of hit those points. And so, we always are excited when we see founders and CEOs that have that awareness as their business scales and are looking for ways to maybe move to be the chief product officer at that next kind of iterative point they're getting to, or the chief technical officer. And you do see that a lot with I will say kind of specifically hard tech companies that are kind of commercializing a core technology where you've had a researcher, you've had an innovator that has developed this technology. That does not mean that they necessarily know how to pitch investors and run a business and manage 250 or 500 employees. Now, sometimes they do. That's not saying they don't either. But, I think thinking in terms of that, what is that right stage? And you can grow with a company fully, right? We also see that happen. But at what point is it time to shift over?
Yeah, because you go into this journey with a very specific skill set. Mm-hmm. And, I do think entrepreneurs early on especially don't have a choice but to expand their skill set, right?
Yeah.
You have no choice. You can't just stay in this linear path if you're an entrepreneur or a CEO.
Mm-hmm.
You've just got to keep adding on to that. But I think it's like you're saying, it's that self-awareness piece goes hand in hand with being an early entrepreneur. And you have to know your strengths, know your weaknesses, put that ego aside and just really delegate.
Yeah.
Bring people into the fold.
Yeah, delegate, bring people in and bring people in that can support your skill set and that you are comfortable with as you think about that expansion and what that means for your role within the company. And, I think investors specifically are also really going to be looking at this, particularly as you get down the road and are raising more and more money and your portion of the company is getting smaller and various investors are getting bigger. They're going to want to know, the end goal of that, right, too, is also to have some type of acquisition event, right? There was some type of exit event to occur so that you make money, they make money. That is what is happening. Yes, they're happy to support your business and, may have a great relationship with you, but like that is the end goal. And so how that business grows and how you enable that growth or hinder that growth will also factor in.
Yeah. I'm in this season of my life right now in my business where I'm really leaning into the fact that as your business grows, things are going to break and that's super normal and that's okay. And that systems are going to break and they're actually meant to.
Yeah.
And it's all about kind of pivoting and bringing in people that, you didn't need a year ago, but now you need because the way you've been doing things for so long has broken. And so now it's time to equip and resource again and pivot again. And that's just the cycle of entrepreneurship.
And like round and round we go and
just literally just constantly adding people to the boat and then removing people from the boat.
And then being like, oh, okay, you have served your role on this boat. And so, and that could be, that could be internal, that could be, contract folks you're working with, that could mean business choices you made that worked for you at the time. But like now it's time to get off of the boat because the boat's got to expand or shrink or, whatever that may be.
Yeah. It's like your awareness is always having to be hyper.
Yeah.
Like you always have to be like, okay, observing you and just speaking about a team. And I'm reading the book Traction right now. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's like amazing. And they're always talking about just knowing right people, wrong seat, wrong people, wrong seat. And really just, that's just top of mind for me right now. And just constantly being able to change and adapt and all of that fun stuff. Well, I want to speak before we kind of wrap, because this is my favorite thing to talk about. And you're the perfect person to have is women and investing.
Yeah.
Becoming an investor. What is that? What that looks like, but then also women getting funding. And you guys are doing incredible work to support women specifically and getting funded. And there's that statistic of 2% of women are actually getting funded by VC firms. Is that correct? Or is that changed?
It's correct. I mean, it's also there. That's also solely women-founded teams. That's not necessarily looking at situations where there's a co-founder or women in leadership where you'll see that percentage grow. Not saying that it is equitable at all, but I think there are some points in there too. And certainly when we're working with women-led companies, that often involves co-founders in that case, et cetera. But we're obviously very, very important to me on kind of a personal level to support and empower women around the state, around the country, help educate on investment and investment opportunities. Our chief investment officer, Monique, is obviously a woman, also very passionate around this area. And I think some of that is just around representation and comfort. We talk about that a lot, and we hear other people talk about that. If you're coming to an investor with your idea, you're being very vulnerable. Like no matter who you are, right? You're saying like I have this thing, or I have this minimal viable product, or I have this whatever, and you're coming to say like, what do you think? And if that room looks more like you feel a little more comfortable having those conversations. And if you're more comfortable, then your pitch usually goes better and you're able to communicate, and if you're talking to somebody who understands what problem you're kind of trying to address, that they also kind of can get it faster. And so having differentiation on that investment side of the table, I think is really helpful and really important. And that also goes back to the conversation about options and being able to look at different investors for those options. So yeah, just very important and something we're passionate about.
So, and we have a lot of women entrepreneurs listening to this show. That's primarily what our listenership is. What would you say to someone who's curious about investing?
Yeah, about actually like writing a check into investment. I would say, why not? Why not consider that as an option for you? If you have been charitably giving, if you have been utilizing your funds in that kind of way, angel investing is definitely something that you can do. if you are in that position. I would encourage anybody who is really interested in that to reach out to, fellow angel investors, whether they be men or women, to kind of educate themselves on, hey, how has this been for you? What do you look for in companies? And I would think about, what groups you could join. There's an amazing group out of Chattanooga called the Jump Fund that is all women investors investing in women-led companies. And, their current round of funding for investment is closed, but those women are always happy to speak to groups, to talk to individuals about, why they chose to do that and what benefit that's had for them from both from a community standpoint and from a financial standpoint. So I know it may seem like, maybe like very male environment, et cetera, but there are women out there doing this work who want to come and talk to you and encourage you to take that pathway as well.
And that's what's, I think, so beautiful about Nashville and the state of Tennessee, even just talking to you, is there's been so much work done on this topic. Women that are just positioning themselves to support, that are going out of their way to support, that are, sending the elevator back down, that are just bringing women up as much as possible. You are, and Monique, you guys are like primary amazing examples of that. And it's so awesome seeing what you guys are doing, not just for women, but for every entrepreneur. And it's beautiful. Well, as we wrap, we always ask our guests one question at the end, which, our whole theme of the show is, creating your Renaissance life, creating, a life that is your own definition of success, whatever that looks like for you. And I always ask my female guests, what is your definition of a Renaissance woman?
Oh, I think my definition of a Renaissance woman is someone who wakes up every day and just gets to live their truth as inherently as they want that to be. And so if you are dreaming of angel investing, if you are dreaming of starting your company, if you're me and you're just like, man, I really want to tell everybody about all the great things happening in Tennessee and create more great resources for entrepreneurs, like, are you getting up every day and doing that thing? And if you are, then I think that's great.
Man, I love that. Like, get up every day and do what your heart tells you to do. Like, it's like, maybe as corny as that sounds, like from how I said it, not how you're saying it, but like, it's so true. Like, follow that drive in you because it's in you for a reason.
Yeah, I think so.
And there's people that are ready for that impact to be made.
Yeah.
And it's just awesome. So, okay, Lindsey, well, I am so grateful to have you on our show.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on.
Tell us where everyone can learn about the organization, the work that you guys are doing, get involved. I feel like we're going to have a lot of people emailing you guys. And also the conference. I know that just happened.
That just happened. We just wrapped that in September. We'll likely be in September again this coming year. But so for any and all things Launch Tennessee, so LaunchTN.org, we have a great weekly newsletter that our comm team runs called The Pitch. I get a lot of compliments.
It's so efficient. It's easy to just skim and get great nuggets of information.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. It's a great, I always appreciate a good opt-in on a website. You guys do that really well.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you. I will also pass that back along to the comms team. But truly, The Pitch is a great resource for just that, as you said, kind of those kind of brief nuggets. If you're like, I don't have time to follow all of this stuff all the time, great. You can just read this one thing. If you are specifically interested in learning more about LaunchTN and the investment program, all the details of that, check sizes that we're writing, kind of minimum and maximum around rounds, et cetera, that is all at investtn.org. You can obviously get there from the LaunchTN site, but also LaunchTN.org, investtn.org, all of the socials up and running, all of that good stuff. So just follow along.
It's awesome. And Lindsey's on LinkedIn. I'm sure personal Instagram too.
Yeah, I'm at LC in Tennessee on Instagram and public account, and do post on there. Was LC in the DC, and then LC in the CHA, and then now I'm LC in
the
Tennessee,
which sounds great. All of them sound great. Well, we're happy to have you back in Tennessee. I mean, I know you were gone for long.
Yeah.
But
just a brief stint out. But yeah, happy to be in Tennessee too, and happy to get to really advocate for founders all over the state.
awesome. Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and we will see you soon.
Yeah. Thanks so much.